All right, guys, welcome back to day number 6 of the Fit Chick Project. And today is a really special and powerful interview with my own personal mindset coach, Matt Lobasco. Now, not too long ago, Matt was a diehard fitness junkie, just like you and I, who saw collapsing on the floor as a sign of a good workout. When he wasn't crushing himself in the gym or healing from an injury, he was running his own physical rehab clinic, helping other people stay fit and healthy. Now, the one thing that kept popping up in his own life and the life of his clients was the inability to look and feel fit in a way that felt sustainable. He was always either exhausted or injured and just really kind of on this all or nothing mindset. And the issue was never about not eating good enough or working out hard enough, but rather because of the big bad S word, stress. Stress was the root of his injuries, his clients' injuries, of the exhaustion and the constant yo-yo that he was battling. And he was unable to control his sweet tooth every time the bills were due. But there was one problem he kept facing. He was wondering, how do I actually help people with stress? I can't just say to people, don't be stressed. That's like the most frustrating and annoying thing somebody could ever say to somebody, right? Now, what he ended up learning, mastering, and now running a thriving coaching practice on was how to help people manage stress through their mindset. Okay. I've been working with Matt for over a year now, and I can tell you that I am nowhere near the same hardcore person I used to be because I've learned how to use my mindset to manage my emotions around eating, my emotional eating, my emotions with working out and trying to push harder, etc. We're taught that if we don't push or strain, we're not getting stronger, right? And a few of my topics of this conversation were, number one, why going 80% is the new 100%. Two, how he got stronger and fitter when he stopped focusing on how he looked and started focusing on how he felt. You guys must learn to do this if you want to be able to look good sustainably and make it easy for yourself, because it's the same thing that I actually started to practice as well. Number three, how to gain control over your emotional eating habits. Number four, how to enjoy your workouts more and live life more fully. Number five, why basing your happiness off your workout and your body is the kiss of death. Now, Matt has been, that's basically what's in the interview. Matt has been very gracious and is offering a free consult to anybody who is interested in wanting to know more about how they can use their mindset to manage stress. He charges usually $250 an hour for one consult, and he's giving it to you guys completely free for your first one. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you just click the link below to schedule your consult with him. I hope you guys take away some really good nuggets here, and I can't wait to hear how this resonates with you. Enjoy the show.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's just go ahead and just kind of give us a quick rundown, since you're going to be quite different from the rest of the speakers. Like, what is it that you do, and what's your background?
Well, my journey started as an athlete. I mean, I was a 3-sport athlete going through high school and then into college, but really was constantly managing injuries. I had 5 orthopedic surgeries before I was 25, turned down a major reconstruction of my elbow and my ankle, and just got to the point where something had to change, because I was going to be in a wheelchair by 30. I was pretty convinced of that at that point. I mean, I'm joking, but it literally felt that way. I mean, my body was just breaking down at such a rapid pace. So my journey really started by trying to figure out what the hell was going on with this body. And I became a mentor junkie because I very quickly realized what I wanted to learn I wasn't going to learn in school. Even though I had signed up for physical therapy school, I signed up for chiropractic school. About a month before I was supposed to start physical therapy school, I bailed. 2 weeks before I was going to start chiropractic school, I bailed. I mean, you can imagine my parents really thought I'd lost my mind. But I was just clear, like, what I wanted to learn I wasn't gonna find that in school. So I just basically went all over the place looking for people that had questions or answers that seemed like few people had. And make a longer story short, I started a practice in LA, doing different types of movement therapy and body work on people, and really just, I really considered it a completely different profession. And became very successful. I had people from all over the country coming to learn from me. Had a thriving practice out in LA. And what quickly I started to observe and learn was there was one place that I really didn't know what to do for people. And it was when the S word was their problem, stress. And I could see that. I mean, first of all, you can find something biomechanically wrong with everybody, right? Like everyone, nobody's biomechanically perfect. So if you look hard enough, you can find something biomechanically wrong with somebody. Everyone could eat a little bit more organic blueberry, right? Like we all could eat a little bit better. So, but what I saw very quickly was this is not what was the problem with these people, right? It wasn't that they weren't eating healthy enough or they weren't working out hard enough or whatever. Like it had nothing to do with that. Clearly they were disciplined, they showed up, and it was this, that, and the other thing, but they were lacking the vitality or the results that they were trying to access. And it was clear to me, it started to show like, God, they're coming down me here. There's a degree of stress with all these people. And in some cases, and I would say most of those cases, a lot of these people were using exercise as the thing to de-stress them, which in my opinion is the worst case scenario. You don't want to stress your system to decrease stress. Like if you think about it, it's like, oh, that's probably not going to work out so well. So I didn't really know what to say to them besides, I don't know, have a glass of wine, take a hot bath, don't be stressed, because that's always helpful when people tell you that. And, you know, I had a very good friend of mine that was coming out and learning from me the discipline that the seminars that I was teaching. And she was like, what about meditation? I'm like, oh, fuck meditation. I don't have time for meditation. Like I can sit there and wait for my brain to stop thinking. Like I'm like, that's going to happen. No, thank you. I don't have time for that. And she introduced me to the gentleman I've been studying with for the last 8 years. His name's Joey Klein, the creator of Conscious Transformation. And I've been studying with him for the last 8 years. And I went into, you know, one of his seminars, and to be honest, I was super skeptical. Like, I'm like, oh, what's this guy selling? Like, I don't like the meditation. Like, I don't see how this is going to help me, blah, blah, blah. And what he created were, he used principles that have been around for thousands of years, like, and principles of neuroscience. And I'm more of a science guy. So don't tell me that if it's a full moon and my left shoelace is untied and I chant this thing, then I'm going to access peace. Like, you got to give me more than that. Like, you got to give me something science, like teach me like what's happening in my brain. And so he did that, and it was just awesome. I was just like, oh my God, like I totally understand what's happening when we say we're stressed. Like, oh, it's these emotions that the mind is creating, and how do you turn it off? And it was just, I was just like, he had me at neuroscience, you know what I mean? And I dove into it in a pretty intense way. I have a tendency to do that. And if anything, there was even a part of me that was still skeptical, and I was like, I'll prove this guy's full of crap and his stuff doesn't work. And I've been trying to prove that for 8 years now. And what he created was an inner training. So I was very clear on the external training. And I'm sure most of the people watching this have got the external training thing down cold. You know what I mean? Like, that is not the issue. Yeah. But what we do not have access to, unfortunately, in a lot of places until now, is a way to train our internal world, which literally dictates what your external world is going to look like and the experience of your external world. And so through my business, through my relationship with my body, I mean, everything has changed because I learned how to train the inside, the mind, the emotions, my nervous system, you know, how to align with higher levels of thinking, knowing when I'm in these fear-based states and not taking action. And it's a practice just like anything else. And so I actually sold my clinic in LA and moved to Florida. I'm in Southern Florida now. And I do one-on-one coaching with people. I teach classes. I lead seminars with Joey all over the country. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like I've said, I know, probably said it to you, Natalie. I know I say it to a lot of people. I honestly couldn't have fantasized that this would be my life experience right now 8 years ago. Like no chance. Yeah. And honestly, I'm 42 right now, and I don't know if my body's ever felt this good, which is also kind of like weird, right? Because I used to chase my old body, right? And I'm like, why would I want to chase the body that was constantly in pain all the time? Yeah, no, I think I want to go that way. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you feel like there was like a moment or an aha experience where you realized that working harder was like counterintuitive?
Yeah, I can tell you my most recent. I mean, I don't think we have enough time to tell you about all the aha moments I've had over the last 8 years, but my most recent one was last year, actually. It was the beginning of last year, and my body was really feeling good. And I actually said 2019, I'm going to take the fitness to another level. Like that was kind of my focus of the year. And so I really started to kind of up level my training. And I found I kept getting sick. And I didn't even consider it was because I was up leveling the training. I was traveling a lot, and there was other things, and so what occurred to me last year was there were moments, and I started to pay attention. I'm like, okay, I started to feel really good, right? And when I felt really good, what I realized I was doing was I would say to myself, if I'm feeling really good, I could probably do more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd add more things. I thought I could probably fit in another workout. Oh, I could probably do a little bit more. And when I started to take a step back and assess, I'm like, dude, maybe you're feeling good because you've got the right dosage. Like maybe that's why you feel good. Maybe you don't need more. Maybe more isn't better. And I started to play this. I tried something radically different for myself, which was don't go 100% anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is again like most people watching this are probably like, okay, click off, right? What the hell is this guy talking about? And trust me, I was somebody that like leave it on the field. You know, if you threw up, you probably had a good workout. You know, whatever.
Right.
And what I realized was that's not really a sustainable model, because not to mention we don't know how to manage the other stresses in our life. So a lot of us are showing up to our training already stressed, and then we're going 120%. So it's a downward trend. Like it's very predictable what's going to happen, right? And so I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to push myself more than 80%. That was my new rule. When I showed up for my exercise, when my workouts, I'm like, I'm going to push it to 80%, and I'm not going to push past that. And I was curious because I said, well, based on the way I've been taught in my experience, if you don't push threshold, you can't get stronger, right? Yeah. So, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna try this. I don't know, what do I care? It's not like I'm getting paid to compete right now, so I'll test it out for those people that are getting paid to compete, and I'll let them know, right? And so I started to play with this, and it was funny because it was the beginning of this year that I'm pretty sure everybody on this call knows what the Murphy is, and where you got to do the mile run, the 300 squats.
Oh, Murph.
The Murph, yeah, 100
Murph,
push-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats with the weight vest. Well, anyway, one of the things that was always a challenge for me was the pull-ups and push-ups, because I don't know if you can see my hand, but you see how there's basically no muscle in my hand there. I have nerve damage in my right arm. So basically my ulnar nerve was crushed and, through repetitive stress. And so I've complete atrophy in my hand here. So anytime I do push-ups or pull-ups, like my elbow's like, please stop,
Yeah.
And I have a really hard time gripping. Like this is usually the thing that I can't grip, which obviously comes in pretty handy with CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so I kind of backed out of a lot of those things because I just couldn't do it. So, but then I just tried, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go 80%. I'm not going to push this thing. I'm going to go 80%. I'm not going to push my system. And the thing that I always had a hard time doing was just like banging out 100 push-ups. Like it was always a hard thing for me to do, because my elbow would just tap out. And it was really interesting because I not only did I go at this 80% mark, I really wasn't doing a lot of push-ups over the last, we'll call it 8 years, a year probably 8 months to a year. And I was actually working out with Joey earlier this year, and in his little routine, we had to do 100 push-ups. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I haven't done this in a while. And I've been training at this 80%. So this is going to be interesting. I hope I don't break my nose trying to do a push-up, right? And I ripped out 100 push-ups like I never had before. And I was just like, that is fascinating to me. Like I was shocked. I really didn't expect that. And I said, I guess I am getting stronger. And the other thing that I got to tell you is the other aha moment I had last year was I changed my reference point for what works. Okay, this was so important for me.
Okay.
My reference point up to even, I would say, early last year was the way my body looks and the way I perform. Like, those are my two marks. Okay, so I would look at my workouts and say they're working if my body looks better, I have less body fat, more muscle mass, and my performance is going up. So that was my marker, right? And when I was using that marker, it was inside of this time where I kept getting injured and I was sick and I just didn't feel good. And I'll never forget one morning, my daughter, she was 5 at the time, woke up, and if anyone has kids or has been around like a 5-year-old, when they get out of bed, like they can go from 0 to 100 in a millisecond. And it's like she did a backflip off the bed and then and then she's like, yeah, let's do it. Yes, life. Yes, another day. Let's go, rock on, right? And I just looked at her and I go, that's what I want to feel like when I wake up. Like, that's my mark. Like, and so I changed my mark to, how do I look naked, to how do I feel when I wake up in the morning? Like that vitality that I saw from her. And trust me, I'm clear I wasn't going to be a 5-year-old anymore, but I said, I want to move in that direction. I want to wake up and I want to feel like my body has energy. I want to feel ready for the day. I want to feel flexible. I want to feel resilient. I want to feel strong. I don't want to make sounds when I put my socks on. Like, I want to fucking get ready and just kick ass today. Like, that was the energy I wanted to bring to my day.
Yeah.
So I started to use that as my reference point. And when I would do a workout, when I would eat, when I would look at how much I slept, how much rest I had, like that, I used those variables. I organized those variables to align with how did I feel when I woke up? How did I feel when I woke up? And that was an absolute game changer for me. And like I said, like, I mean, I don't like right now with what's happening in the world, like I honestly, it's probably been at least a year since I've been sick. And I have children, okay? They are walking petri dishes in the house when they go, like, they just come home with all kinds of shit constantly. And again, I'm not saying I'm never going to get sick again, but there was a huge change in my reality when I made those 2 tweaks. So I would say those 2 ahas for me, just very recent, within the last 2 years, have been game changers. And there was many before that, but I'll give you my most recent one.
Well, so, I mean, a lot of people, I think it's almost like people don't really realize what they're missing out on until they feel that, right?
True.
But what I'm wondering is, for the listeners, a lot of their, like a big benchmark or something that's really important to them is looking a certain way. So did you notice that your body looked just as good or not? Or what kind of changes did you notice when you took that reference point?
Well, I can tell you exactly, because I get a DEXA scan at the beginning of every year, to do some objective tests. And when I got my test done, it was in January this year. The girl that did the test, she's like, wow, your weight is exactly the same, to the hundredth of a pound. It was crazy. Okay. It was like 198.6 or something, or something like that. And she goes, the only thing that's changed is your body composition. You have lost this much fat and you've put on this much muscle.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that's so, so I am somebody who looks at objective measurements. I'm not just, I'm definitely looking at how I feel and all those things, but I also like data. So I get a VO2 max done every year. I get a scan done every year, because I'm curious, like, what's actually happening here. And the body fat percentage drastically dropped, and my muscle mass went up, and was so fascinating because it's like, wow, I don't see that very often, that the weight stays exactly the same, but like to the hundredth of a pound, but your body comp completely shifted. And she just looked at me, she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but I would keep doing it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am not like super anal about
so I was going to ask.
I mean, counting calories, like I am not doing that at all. I definitely eat a very healthy lifestyle, but I love my pizza. I don't like restrict myself. I enjoy the things I enjoy, but my routine is definitely, it's healthy. I mean, we're not eating lasagna for dinner,
Hey, what's up, guys? We're just going to take a really quick break. Just so you know, every day I post some really awesome info on how women can get better results to getting lean in the kitchen and in the gym. So be sure to check me out on Instagram at natalie.newhart to take all of my unique secrets and start applying them today. All right, let's get back to the show.
You're pushing less hard and you're building more muscle and you're losing body fat. You're not trying to change up your diet or anything. Like, do you think that you're naturally just choosing better foods, or or is it something internally? Like, why do you think that's happening?
Another part of my background is I used to teach nutrition. We used to teach nutrition classes and courses. So at my clinic in LA. So my wife really is the one who's kind of taken and run with that. So I am extremely fortunate. She is not only an amazing cook, but she cooks everything like it's all homemade stuff. I mean, and it's not really complicated things. Like, I could tell you kind of our philosophy of eating, but no, it's not. If I showed you some videos, Natalie, you'd probably get a kick out of it from like when I had my clinic in LA, when I was driving really hard and doing all the things. Like, you could see me, I was puffy.
Yeah.
I was puffy. I was a little, kind of swollen, and not a healthy swollen, not like swole, but like puffy, Puff Daddy. And, there's definitely been the phases where I was a little pudgy, little fat. Like, I definitely had probably at like 70% body fat at one point, like for me that's a lot of fat, because I don't like, that's not something that, I've been relatively, probably floating in between 10 and 15 most of my life. But I mean, the way we have been eating for the last 10 years, actually 20 years, we've been on this routine, but it's not very restrictive. I mean, I would say that if I told you some of the things we'd eat, like we are extremely liberal with our butter and our coconut oil. I mean, we eat a lot of fat and we eat a ton of fruit. Like, I mean, so like fat and sugar is predominantly here. Now, if I wanted to like get shredded, like, there were some things that you can make those modifications, but for me, that's just not, that's not my goal. Like, and that's what I mean. I don't think it's not hard for me to do that if I wanted to do that, but my mark isn't looking good naked anymore. Right. It's feeling amazing when I wake up. And we can go into that if you want to. It was another question, but did I answer your questions?
Yeah. I mean, I think, so what I'm just trying to get to the point is, like, do you think that just focusing on feeling better is actually allowing you to maybe not, or be a little bit more intuitive about the way that you eat? Like, just eat more based off hunger versus like just eating just to eat, like as a compulsive reaction. Do you think that's improved?
This is where the inner stuff comes in.
This is,
this is the inner stuff, because I think even some of the things that you mentioned you wanted to talk about was this idea of emotional eating, and that you have a tendency to see that more of your female clients are emotional eaters. I have news for everybody watching this. Everybody's an emotional eater. Okay. There's no such thing of not being an emotional eater. Not only are you an emotional eater, you're an emotional being, and every decision you make is based on an emotion. There are people that are aware of it, and there's people that are in denial. Like, I have plenty of men, especially the men, unfortunately guys, like, I know this is just the way we are, but we think we're being logical and intellectual, and emotions aren't available. And it's not even just like not true from here's Matt saying this, but it's scientifically proven that it's not true, because every single thought you have, every time you're thinking about something or about to take an action, there's an emotion that's driving that action and that thought. And I understand that most people are unaware of it. Okay. Because we have no one has really taught us how to be emotionally sensitive. Like, what am I feeling? I'll tell you a funny story about how disconnected I was from what I'm talking about And I would have told you, I'm not an emotional person. I'm a logical person. My dad literally told me emotions are irrelevant. You know, like it's illogical. It's an intellectual process. He was a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, this was the training I got. And so funny story, this was in LA, and I'm walking through the kitchen. I think most people can appreciate this little moment. I'm walking in the kitchen, and you kind of do the laps in the kitchen where you're kind of pacing around and you're opening things, and you're expecting the fourth time you open the fridge, there's something different in there.
Yeah.
And well, I was scavenging the like the cupboards, the pantries, right? Like I'm looking like in the pantries, and my wife is sitting at the table, you know, doing something, and she just literally nonchalantly picks up her head and she goes, "You're looking for those chocolate covered almonds, aren't you?" And I go,
Yeah.
"No," totally was, right? And I looked at her, I go, how did you know that? She goes, "Oh, it's the end of the month. You're stressed about bills." And I go, holy shit, man. Like, it just is crazy how freaking predictable I was and how predictable emotions are. So
Yeah.
I realized every time there was this sense of anxiety
Yeah.
or overwhelm, chocolate covered almonds, baby. Those ones from Trader Joe's are really good. Recommend them if no one's had them, with the little sea salt on them. Like that was what I went to, right?
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I never realized when I was reaching for a food, there was an emotion that was basically telling me what I should go grab.
Mm-hmm.
But I never knew that until it was pointed out. She pointed out very clearly to me. And then as I started to learn kind of how this inner world works, then I realized, wow, this is showing up everywhere. So every time I go and grab something, like the question I started asking myself, and what I suggest my clients to ask is, you know, what's the emotion you're feeling, you know, that's having you, because whatever emotion you're feeling is your little consultant. Like, think of it that way. Like, when you feel something, you've got that emotion whispering in your ear, "Hey, wouldn't the glass of wine be great right now?" Like, that's an emotion that's telling you that,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not even you. So most people just aren't sensitive to this. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying is that, like, if you're the pattern of maybe possibly driving harder to outwork, you know, to try to burn off the calories, it could literally be, well, I mean, you know, definitely be causing certain emotions if it's not aligned in the right state, right? That could be causing you to not be able to control how much you eat and make it very difficult for you
Well,
to get fit.
Yeah, I would even say there's an emotion driving you to work harder.
Yes.
Okay. There's an emotion that we're not aware of that's telling us, basically, it's whispering in our ear, "You're not enough."
Right.
Or maybe it's the emotion of self-doubt. Like, it's not going to happen. Why bother? And what people use food for is, it's no different than a drug. Like, you're having an emotion that you don't like, and so you eat the food that makes you feel better in the moment.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here's another example of a client that I was working with that was a high performer. Okay, I'm talking high performer. I mean, this gentleman was offered a job from Warren Buffett and turned it down. Okay, like, very high performer, and actually a very dear friend of mine he became. And he was very funny because he was, you know, doing his diet thing and he's trying to get in shape. This is a guy I worked with his physical body. I didn't do like the mental coaching with him, but it was more working with his, you know, aches and pains. And he was very cute because he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm doing so well, but man, I can't not eat bagels and lox. Like, I just can't, like, they're my thing." And I just started learning about, like, kind of the inner world when we were having this conversation. So I said, "Well, God, what is it about bagels and lox? Like, where does that take you?" You know, and this man was in his 60s, right? And he literally, Natalie, like, transformed into a 5-year-old little boy. And he goes, "Well, when we were young, like, my family didn't have anything and we didn't have a lot of money, but when my dad, like, you know, got some extra money, we celebrated with bagels and lox. And we would have this, it was like one of the few times our family was together. It was one of the few times like we were happy." And so what the brain does is it goes, bagel, lox, happy, click, right? It's that neurons that fire together, wire together. It's a neuroscience principle. So those two things got locked. So basically every time he eats a bagel and a lock, he's literally connecting in this experience with his father in a space of love and connection and acceptance and joy. Like, you're going to eat the bagel. I don't give a shit who you are because that's going to win every time. Right. So we get these things lined up in a certain way where the emotional pattern is making the decision for us. So until we learn how to disconnect these neural circuits that don't align with the outcome we're trying to create, we're really kind of at their will. And it takes willpower to overcome these things. And willpower is like your battery on your cell phone, man.
Yeah.
It goes down fast.
Yeah. Yeah. We can't rely on that. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Even the strongest, like it's.
No, and it's not sustainable. And not only that, it's discipline and willpower. It's not sustainable. And the experience of having to will yourself to do things you don't want to do sucks.
Yeah.
Like that is like a not fun process to try to will yourself to do shit you don't want to do. So instead of trying to will yourself to do the things that you know will get you where you want to go, realign your inner world so that you're actually super excited to take those actions. Because if you bring that joy and passion, like you were chatting about at the beginning here, to your workouts, to your food, if you just think of it physiologically, okay, we can just be scientific about it. We don't even have to be like woo-woo about it. The way the body's operating physiologically when you're in what's called a love-based state, right? When your brain is operating with your frontal lobe on, and you're able to access experiences of joy and peace within yourself, like your system is working at its optimal ability. It's working most efficiently. So all the energy you have available can be directed to whatever you're doing. If you are activated inside of a fear-based state, your brain actually has to use resources to create the experience of fear because it's not our natural state. So we're wasting all of these resources being anxious. And then, so the system's already stressed. And then we're going and stressing the body physically. And we're wondering why we're not getting the results that we're trying to get.
Yeah. And it's a fight, a climb.
It is a battle. It's a battle and it's frustrating. And I don't blame people for like, yeah, I think I'm done. Fuck it. Like, I understand why people get there, man, because I'm amazed that people hang in there as long as they do, if I'm honest.
Me too.
So.
I'm surprised I did. So how do we get ourselves to align ourselves with the emotions so that this is effortless? Working out is effortless. Eating the right foods is effortless, and it becomes just our natural way of being. How do we do that?
Yeah. It all starts with why you're doing what you're doing. Right? Like you got to start with your why. You got to, like when someone comes to me and says, Matt, I want to get in really good shape. I want to do this. I want to do that. My first question is, why do you want to do that? And if they are oriented in some way to, well, I want to do it because I want to feel good about myself. I'm like, well, we're in trouble then. I want to do it because I want to feel confident with myself. Not going to work. Like there's nothing you can do in this world. No feat you could accomplish. No event you could win that's going to make you feel valued, worthy, accepted, and loved. Like it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay. And you can see all the people that chase this, right?
Yeah.
Most people that are inside of high performance roles, they're chasing their value through their accomplishments. And I call it, they get a hit. Like they get the hit, like, I did it. Yes. Oh, it feels good. And then the high goes away. It's like, shit, I got to do the next thing. And it never ends. It never fucking ends. Like it is you're going to be doing that forever. So until you learn how to cultivate this experience of love within yourself, and I don't mean this love as this airy fairy shit. Like I'm talking about like this knowing that you're enough, if you want to think of it that way. Like that there's nothing you have to do to be accepted, appreciated, loved, and valued because you're already that. And I know that can sound a little airy fairy. When I first heard it, I'm like, what is this fucking happy horse shit? But it really, like when you can really learn how to like create the experience of joy within yourself, or even the experience of feeling empowered within yourself. And then you bring that to whatever you do, whether it's your workout, whether it's your meal prep, whether it's your, you know, your date, whether it's your partner, you know what I mean? Whether it's your mountain biking, like you're going to not only have a kick-ass experience, but your body physiologically is going to be more ready to perform at a higher level. You don't want to put the condition to your value, your joy, your empowerment on the fulfilling of hitting a certain performance mark. This is where you see people struggling in a big way. Okay. And then high performers, what they will say is, but Matt, that's what keeps me motivated. Okay. And that's the kiss of death. Okay. Because if somebody is motivating themselves with insecurity and not enough, and let's say they've hit like this mark of being in, like, we'll just call it the 80th percentile inside of their performance, like somebody that was able to get to 80 percentile of their performance from a place of insecurity and unworthiness, if they tuned up their inner space, they'd be in the 99th percentile. Like they're not even close to their potential, because from a physiological efficiency energy standpoint, you're not working at optimal levels if you're battling fear-based states. Like it's physiologically impossible. So as much as people have accomplished driving inside of insecurity, et cetera, they could accomplish 10 times that and actually enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I find it very similar to the flow state, since a lot of people have experienced that. So it's like,
for sure,
if you can just live in that flow state, like that's what it kind of feels like all of the time when you learn how to like create
80,
that joy.
80 to 90% of the time.
What's that?
You can sustain that flow state 80 to 90% of the time. Like it's impossible to be there 100% of the time. I just want to throw that out there.
And and I think that's what I struggle with, actually.
Well, that's why I said it, Natalie. Yeah, like we're not supposed to be there 100% of the time. It's impossible. We're still human. It's okay to feel insecure, unwardly. All that shit is normal. It's called being human. You just want to be aware that you're there, so that you can make a calibration if you'd like to, so that you're not taking any big actions, making any big decisions when you are in that space.
Yeah. And how do you calibrate yourself? Because I have my own way of doing it, but how do you calibrate yourself to align with the right emotions, to get into that flow state or whatever? Like, you know, is it something that you do every single day or before your workouts? Is there anything in particular that you do? Ritual?
Yeah, I mean, my every morning starts the same, and it's aligning with the person I choose to become. It's aligning with the person I am looking to. I think of it as me in my realized potential, or me in the highest version of myself, if you want to think of it that way. So, like when I think of like who is it that I want to be in the world, what's the impact I want to have in the world, who's the person I want to become. I imagine myself as this person in a place of inspiration, passion, love, kind, you know, like I just visualize myself as this person, and align myself with that person, almost like this image of me in this state of, you know, I'll call it my realized potential. It's my reference point. Okay. So I think to myself, gosh, how would this person show up, and how would they go through the day today? How would this person go through the day today? Some people do it with different archetypes. Like some people do it with different role models. Hey, how would, you know, like how would Michael Jordan like deal with this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit who it is. Michael Jordan, Wonder Woman, Jesus, Buddha, like whoever that person is, you can look at them as your reference point. Right. And so it's so important to have a reference point that you can use throughout your day. And by imagining what it would be like to have the experience of feeling empowered or feeling inspired, God, what would that feel like? What would that look like? How would I think? How would I carry myself? The fact that every morning I'm basically telling my brain, this is the mark, this is the mark, this is the mark. It starts to just align itself with that on my behalf, because when you focus on something that intensely, your mind now says to you, this is important, And it actually starts to, your unconscious starts to align yourself with these things without you even having to think about it. Your reticular, it's your reticular activating system that does that. Like that's one of the parts of your brain that actually filters in and out information that it believes is relevant to you. So you're activating these centers in the brain that help you to activate and turn on that experience right now so you can bring it to your day.
Training.
Absolutely. It's exactly right, Natalie. It's all training. And yes, before my workout, I absolutely just create a micro intention. And I'm just like, hey, today's workout is about just having, like, bringing joy and passion and inspiration to my workout. And I just close my eyes and take a deep breath and just imagine myself, you know, having fun with my workout, smiling through the workout, feeling strong, feeling powerful, right? I'm not chasing something in my workout. Like that's the key. Like when we're chasing it, man, it's a race you can't win.
Yeah. And then and then you start to dread it. And then it's like this expectation.
Big obligation. Yep. You got it.
Yeah.
It's a burden.
Yeah. And so the hard part is, you know, for a lot of women, is that, you know, how do you know when I'm training smarter and rather than just being lazy, like letting go, like, you know, going to that, not doing the 100% and choosing to do 80%. Like, how do you just be okay that, I guess, how did you be okay with that? Like
two things. Two things I would say to that is, number one, always check into where you are emotionally through the process. Okay. You know, it's more important for you to be aware of where you are emotionally when you're taking an action you're taking, than it is the action you're taking. Okay. So if you decide to, you know, take it easy today, like tune in, what's the emotion that shows up for you when that occurs to you? Do you feel defeated? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel overwhelmed? Or maybe you're like, hey, I remember Natalie said maybe taking a day off would be a good idea. And then fucking panic just overcomes you. And you're like, I can't take a day off. This guy just can't. Like, I'm going to lose my gains. And oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. So basically this idea that your coach basically said, hey, why don't you try this? And it activates this panic and anxiety and overwhelm. So in that moment, you're like, okay, do I listen to anxiety, panic, and overwhelm and the advice of them? Or do I listen to the advice of my coach who's trying to get me to this place that I haven't been able to get to before? Right. And so it's a choice. Hey, I can listen to overwhelm, panic, and anxiety right now and work out because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my gains. Or I'm going to listen to this other strategy. And that was my other piece of it. You're just tweaking your strategy. That's all you're doing. You're modifying your strategy. You're not changing the outcome. Okay, so if the outcome is to access a certain performance, and what you're up to is not hitting the mark, then you got to change it. You got to change your strategy. Okay, because if your strategy was working, you'd hit the mark, right? So if you're not hitting the mark, what most people do when they're not hitting the mark is, it's a weird thing we do as humans, but instead of changing the strategy, we do the strategy harder.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, I've been doing this thing. I'm not getting the result. I'm going to keep doing the thing, but I'm going to do it harder. No, like if your car is driving in the wrong direction, driving faster in that direction is not going to get you any different result. It's actually going to make things worse. So you got to fucking change the direction of the car. You got to change your strategy. You got to move the car in a different direction. And the problem with that is the brain doesn't like change, and it freaks out. Right? Like, oh my God, change. This is bad. Like, and so you got to move through that fear that shows up when change is being asked of you, and just look at it as it's a strategy tweak. It's a tweak in strategy. That's all it is. Okay. But I will say, if your mark and your goal is to create value within yourself by lifting this much weight or looking a certain way with the body, that mark is one you'll never hit. So it doesn't really matter what strategy you take. It's not going to be relevant. You also got to make sure you really named the thing you're really looking to create here before you create it.
Yeah, I think that's key. You know, I think that people don't, I think like a lot of the women I work with, they say they want this freedom or this peace, like they want more connection, but yet they're just driving harder in that same direction.
You got it.
Yeah. So they're
Yeah,
not getting
and a lot of
anywhere.
times it's oriented with those people. And again, I was in that same boat, that my freedom and connection will come when I hit this mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the lie.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's no mark or destination called, hey, when you get here, you're going to feel free. No, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to feel free now, and you got to learn how to do that. And you got to train that. That's inner training.
Mm-hmm.
Training yourself to do a snatch is no different than training yourself to access peace. It's literally the same process.
Mm-hmm.
The same exact thing, because the brain is the brain. It learns the same way, whether it's learning how to create peace or whether it's learning how to do a clean. They're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You want to use the same methods to execute, which is repetition and intensity, consistency and intensity. Like that's how the brain learns.
Mm-hmm.
Again, consistency, intensity inside of your lift, consistency, intensity inside of your state. The same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so like, where do you think people, or like diets, where do you think diets fail? Like, why do you think, where do you think they go wrong with just kind of in general, like, why people fail their diets? And what do you think is like your biggest piece of advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it comes back to, why am I going on a diet?
Okay.
Like if I'm looking for my diet to hit this mark called lose 10 pounds so I can feel good about myself, there's no diet that's going to get you to that mark. There are diets that can get you to lose 10 pounds, but there's no diets that make you feel good about yourself. And when you lose 10 and when you lose the 10 pounds and you feel good about yourself, it's a hit. It's like a drug. It doesn't last. You start to feel bad about yourself for other reasons, right? You know, and so it doesn't really change. There's this illusion that you feel better when you're at this certain weight, but if you're honest with yourself, you're not. Like that unworthiness or whatever is there driving you to lose. I had a woman that I worked with. I'll never forget this woman. She came in with back pain. This is probably 15 years ago, when I was not even close to doing this type of work. And she came into my office with back pain, and she's like, Matt, I really want you to help me with the back pain because I can't work out. Sure, no wonder. Those are most of my clients, right? And got her out of back pain and got her working out, you know, and she was really depressed when she came in, like really upset. And I got her working out again, and I was really expecting her to be happy when I saw her, because I'm like, you're back working out, like, how you doing? She goes, yeah. You know what I realized though, Matt? I thought it was that, she put on a couple pounds. That was what it was. And she wasn't working out. So I helped her with the back pain. She lost a couple pounds, and I'm like, man, you're back. You lost the weight. And she goes, yeah, you know what? I realized that the thing that's making me unhappy isn't the weight. And she literally lifted up her shirt and pinched like maybe this much like skin on her abdomen. And she's like, this is actually the thing that's causing me and it was like a 2x4 cracked me over the head. I go, wow. I thought to myself, and I just said to her, I go, gosh, how many times have you had this conversation with yourself? She goes, oh, all the time. And I go, huh. Like whenever she checks off a box, then 3 more boxes appear. And then she checks off that box, 2 more boxes appear. Because that game of chasing value never ends.
Yeah.
So when you say diet, like, there's a way to nourish the body, to optimize the body's performance, period. And if we are looking to eat something to lose weight, like, to me, the purpose of eating isn't to lose weight. So if you're looking to put in the foods that optimize your body's ability to create energy and perform, like, great. Like, that's an eating program in my mind. Like, give me high octane fuel. Like, this idea that what is like the foods that are touted as healthy are the ones that have no calories in them, right? Like, that's the other wild thing, right? It's literally like opening up a gas station and selling gasoline that has 0 octane fuel. Hey, we'll just fill up your fucking tank with water. At least your tank's full. Like, well, how is this helpful? It's not. Like, calories is a unit of energy. So if I'm putting no calories into my engine, why would I expect performance?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then there's people that piss in their Ferraris, right? They put like shit food in their engine and they expect the Ferrari to perform at a high level. Like, you know, so like it's a complete paradigm shift around food. And like I said, it all starts with, why am I going on this diet to begin with? What's the mark I'm trying to hit here?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be honest with yourself.
Right.
You can't,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you can't give yourself the bullshit answer. Well, I just want to be healthy. The bullshit. No, you don't.
Yeah.
And I usually ask people like at least 5 times, why do you want to be healthy? Well, you know, I just want to be healthy. I understand, but why? Like, I'm annoying. Like, they're like, look at me like, stop. But I'm like, no, like, you need to understand really why you're doing what you're doing. Because until you are honest with yourself about why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to continue to be on this wild goose chase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to the same things. We got to know where we are, why we're doing it, where we're going, and then just align ourselves, because, and especially if we're not seeing the change that we want.
Exactly.
Right. We're not making progress, and understanding that there is no destination that's going to make you feel a certain way. It starts right here, right now.
You got it.
And how do you suggest, like, what is your biggest piece of advice to starting that transformation?
Mm-hmm. I would say that there's one thing that I could offer your listeners or whoever's watching this, and it's challenging. I'm just going to put the disclaimer out there because we're so hardwired not to do what I'm going to tell you, but get out of problem solving. Okay. Like, whatever problem you think you have, pretend you don't have it. Okay. So get out of the mind. The mind loves to like say, here's my problem that I need to solve. And then we solve that problem. And then we go, here's the next problem I got to solve. And we have a saying in conscious transformation, people that are good problem solvers and even like kind of like wear that badge of I'm a problem solver, people that are good at solving problems are actually just really good at finding problems. Okay. Because in order to solve problems, you have to constantly be able to see the problem. And so instead of getting inside of this problem mindset, like training your brain to go into a creation space. Okay. And say, gosh, if I could imagine like creating any experience in my life of my choice, what would I create? Like, what's the most important thing for me to know in my life as an experience? And I would start internally, like, what's the most important experience I want to know internally? Gosh, what's most important for me to know is fulfillment. What's most important for me to know is peace. What's most important for me to know is love, joy, inspiration, passion. Like, what is that thing that is most important for you to know? And just simply start aligning yourself with that every day. And when I say aligning yourself with it, just acknowledge it freaking exists and just start asking questions like, gosh, what reasons do I have to be peaceful today? What reasons do I have to feel inspired today? And start training your brain to focus on creating that. And I'm telling you, like, your brain will, it's amazing, this thing, like, it will start to catch on eventually. And so, like, creation mode, like, that's my thing. Like, go into creation mode and get out of problem solving. Pretend you have no problems. And I've said this to people that are in certain situations, like clearly they've got some things to manage. And I still say, hey, forget about all this shit that you just said is going on in your life, and let's talk about what you want to create.
Yeah. Put your focus on where you
want to go, not what you want to eliminate.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I think the people that are listening to this, they are so hard. They are such hard workers, so driven people. They're not afraid of hard work. It's just, they need to just realign that. And if once they do that and start creating, it's unbelievable what they can achieve.
It is fun to see what people that have that work ethic and show up, like, and show up and lean in and focus.
Drill it.
They just need to take that focus and not have fear driving it. It's those powerful resources are working for fear for most of these people. We need to, like, change the guys in the suits, like the corporation they're working for. Like they've got these great workers, but they're working for the corporation of fear. Like get into a different, driver and drive from a place of joy, peace. And you can leverage this incredible work ethic that so many of people have created. You don't have to let go of it. You just want to use it differently.
Right. Cool. Well, let's hope they open their eyes and see what the opportunity is and start driving in that direction.
Yeah. And
awesome,
it's a little calibration here and there, man. It doesn't have to be big. It's just the slightest little tweak that can make a difference.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you being on here, and we got a lot of good stuff, and I think this will be really helpful for a lot of people. So I really appreciate
it's been fun. Thanks, Natalie.
Awesome.